right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Next Level by Association Virtual. And, this week it's so fun because if you're like me, you love meeting new people. And I've been really blessed over the last, 35 years to just really make it a practice, but also make it, this something that excites me every time I get to meet somebody new, especially somebody that really speaks into my heart and into my life. And these two people have done so. You meet people in a lot of different circumstances, and then you meet them at a lot of different times of your life. And depending on when you meet them and how you meet them can really change the impact that they have on your life. And, I've been so blessed. I remember, Rebecca, you don't probably even know this, but I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, I remember being on Facebook Live and watching you perform from your house, performing just kind of some worship music. And I remember just sitting there going, I love this lady. Who is she? I love her heart. Oh my gosh. And I'm like following, and I'm just like going, every time you'd go live, I'd be like in there. And I just loved your heart. And then as you started talking about your husband, Israel, who I absolutely love that name. I wish I had a name like Israel. I mean, what a great name. Man, that's such a good name. And but as you started talking about him, I'm like, what a cool relationship, how you guys have developed and the family dynamics that you've created and then the opportunities that you guys have created and been blessed with to impact the world, impact so many people. And and then I'm sitting there at Congregation Church, and there you are. You're up on stage. I'm like, wait a second. I know her. It was so fun, but it's been such a blast, and I'm just so grateful for this time, you guys, to be able to do this. And let's just jump right in. You guys are making an impact, a huge impact, and yet in two different realms. I mean, one is in teaching and preaching and speaking, and one is in music and ministry, and it's like, what a great combination and a great way to complement each other. Was that by design, or was that something were you looking for that when you met each other, or was this just something that was a God-inspired thing?
A truly divine design. Truly divine design. I mean, of course, you have dreams and aspirations, and I can't speak for my husband, but for me, I mean, I had a long list of what I was looking for in a spouse, because I knew that it was more than just somebody I'm going to live with and raise a family with. I wanted someone who had a heart for the kingdom of God, who was a full-time minister, because that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be in ministry full-time. And so, but our marriage was really quite unconventional, and truly was basically an arranged marriage, not by a human being, but by God. And so here we end up in this relationship, and, funny story, early on, he made a reference to, the typical thing people call when, a man and a woman are both strong and both have, independent sort of individual personalities and ministries or businesses. They call it a power couple. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh no, we are not. No, I have this like super cheesy cliche picture of like a husband and wife back to back, and I was like, no. And as we've both, as I've grown and as we've grown together, we're celebrating 13 years of marriage this year. It's like, I looked at him the other day and he's like, yeah, kind of like that, huh? And I'm like, well, you end up somewhere that you didn't even maybe intend to be, but because you both are walking together in the right direction, it's inevitable. And so I don't know what he would say, but that's my 2 cents on that point.
How funny. What about you, Drew? I mean, because it's so weird. I mean, we do make a list of the things that we want in a spouse, right? Or the things we want in a relationship. And sometimes it happens that way and sometimes it doesn't. So what about you, Israel? What was your...
Well, this was not choice. This was not choice. Love her. Obviously 13 wonderful years of marriage. Yeah. But not choice. When God gave me a vision during a worship service, and I was getting ready to go and preach, and my wife came over to me and straightened my tie, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "Be powerful." And it was Rebecca. But
who
I
was
had,
not his wife yet.
who was not my wife. And so I rebuked that, get behind me, devil. There's a little bit of an age difference, and this was not good. She wasn't my type. Just nothing, she comes from Amishville, up there in Pennsylvania, from the Amish. Her dad was Amish. And so just not my style or type. But I tell you what, when God decides, and he divinely connects. And so we both had a revelation we should get married, and we sat and had a conversation.
A super awkward conversation. Like, I didn't know that he knew, and he didn't know that I knew. Like,
Really?
super awkward.
Interesting.
And
fishing,
So basically, we discovered we both knew we had to get married. I said, "Great." Got up, shook hands. Shook hands.
He said, "God bless you," shook my hand, and I walked out like, what just happened? Like,
We just
what?
made an agreement.
Yeah, and 4 days later, we went for coffee and decided to get married, and got engaged and got married. How long after?
3-4 months later, we were married.
Wow.
Right. And, I heard God, I had to trust him.
Yeah.
And she heard God and had to trust him.
Yeah.
And we're so thankful.
Yeah.
We're so thankful.
Absolutely.
Because
Israel, what was the thing that about her that just made you know that she was it?
just the vision.
That vision?
Nothing else.
Yeah.
The thing is, Bob, and thanks for having us on today, by the way.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. But the thing is, I've been in ministry for a long time, and I went through a major, what I call a tsunami, and my world came crashing down. And I was an international minister. Had planted 450 churches around the world, 5 continents. I was a busy man with an assignment. My world crashes. This vision is post-world crash. And so I'm not happy about it. This is not something I'm looking for.
He's not looking to be remarried. He's not favorable towards the female sex at this point in history, And I think, typically we look at a spouse or a potential spouse and say exactly what you said. What was it about them that really, and I think for both of us, we can confidently say it wasn't looking at each other, being confident about anything. It was truly looking at the Father and just being confident in what we knew undoubtedly was from him. Believing that he saw more than we saw, believing that he knows more than we know. And if this is what he says, I don't get it. I'm like, I really, truly don't get it. Neither did anybody else. Surely there's something going on there because this doesn't make sense. but it is what it is. And here we are.
Yeah. And so now I look back.
Yeah.
Now I look back and say, wow. How amazing is this divine activity? The Bible says when you find a wife, you find a good thing and obtain favor from the Lord. And Rebecca's really become a favor conduit. I'm sitting talking to you today because you met Rebecca.
I mean, I didn't want to bring that up, but
and so we benefit each other. But what I love about Rebecca and is her passion for the Lord. I remember years being the overseer of the ministry. She was in one of our churches in the world, and seeing how she would worship the Lord, lay prostrate at the altar, weeping before God. This was how I knew her, and that was always deeply impactful to me. Her surrender to the Lord, and today, to marry and become a blended family, and her surrender to be a mom, a stepmom, and to take on all my stuff, because you go through a tsunami, you end up with stuff. And she had to help me unpack that stuff. So very thankful for that, and I just love who she is in the Lord. You know, both as a coach, a life coach, a very good coach. You know, she runs our coaching business. She runs, helps me run our ministry, international ministry. Very hands-on in getting things done, and I so appreciate that. And a great mom, great mom. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Rebecca, it shows. I mean, when I, like I said, the first time I tuned in, I was like, oh my gosh, I love her heart. I love who she is. And so, so what do you love? What have you found that you love most about Israel?
It's funny you ask, because I was just having this conversation. I had a coaching call right before this, and talking with a young lady who's at the very beginning of a relationship. And, you know, she was like talking about how, you know, you can find somebody who doesn't quite meet what you thought you wanted, but there's more there that you didn't know you actually wanted. And I think that's what I've found is, you know, my mom came to South Africa soon after we were married, and we were speaking at a big conference, several thousand people, and I was leading worship up there, and then he was ministering, and we kind of just flowed together. And she was in the front row just weeping. And I went up to her afterwards. I said, Mom, you know, what, you okay? What's going on? And she said, I understand. And I was like, good. What do you understand? And she said, this is of God, because the way you work together, you needed a strong man. You know, you needed somebody who could lead you, and he can lead you. And so how I would answer that today is very different from what I would have said 13 years ago. Firstly, being with someone who you can trust, someone who you truly believe at your core loves you, not because of what you're doing for them, not because of how well or how good you are at loving them, because I don't always succeed at loving him well, you know, in every relationship. But knowing that regardless of what my day is like, he's there for me. He's my biggest fan. He is in my corner. Let me tell you, I know, regardless of what accolades I get out there, #1 fan. And that's huge for me. And it took me a few years as a strong, independent woman, you know, to let someone love me that way, and to trust someone's love for me. That it wasn't because of what I was doing right or wrong, but just because I existed, just because of who I am. And so, you know, for anybody out there, you know, look at the character of the person, not just the result of the person, the character of the person. You know, he meets people, and he has this ability, it's uncanny, it's from God, to see their God-given potential. You know, and I love walking with someone like that, because he's not moved by circumstance. He's like, well, this could change, that could change, but look at this, look at that. And I'm like, I didn't see that, you know? And so I just value his wisdom. I know without a shadow of a doubt, I am who I am today, massively in part because of this man. Just walking beside him, listening into conversations, watching him lead, watching him raise up leaders, watching him walk with people, watching him coach has made me a better coach. And so there's a lot there, but I would just say someone that you can have fun with, and someone who challenges you. He doesn't let me settle. And it can be very uncomfortable. And sometimes I'm like, leave me alone. Just leave me be.
Right.
But he looks deeper than what I'm showing the world, and he says, there's more there, and I'm not letting you settle.
So I love the fact that you brought up some of that vulnerability. How do you get to that point of trusting someone when we've all been let down? We've all had people in our lives that have come in and left us high and dry. But so, you know, you mentioned this tsunami that you went through, Israel. How did you get to the point where you could trust, that you could say, okay, I can rebuild with this person versus what's happened in the past?
Right. Well, to be honest, Bob, I wouldn't have had that confidence or trust if I had not seen it by God, if I had not had a vision, and then had confirmation of that literally on 2 different continents, where people contacted me and said, listen, you can get remarried. I just want you to know that. And I think this is the person for you. And they did not even know what I'd seen.
No.
Wow.
And then, so even my oldest daughter came to me and said, you need to marry her, not knowing what we knew. And so
Unreal.
those little steps of victory or confirmation
Mhm.
really helped me take the steps forward, because I was hurt. I was broken, going from very successful life and losing literally everything, including my reputation. And you at the bottom, God take my life. I would never take my own life. That's not
Right.
something I would even consider. But, I definitely asked him to take it.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine living in that broken state for the rest of my life. And so even the day we got married, I was not fully convinced that I was going to be able to treat her well.
Mm.
Obviously, I knew it was God at this point, but I didn't know I'd be able to treat her well because I was angry, I was hurt, I was broken. But every time she kissed me on my cheek or hugged me, it was like the balm of Gilead, just bringing healing. And so I married her broken.
Mm.
She kissed me and loved me. And I'm just talking about that little kiss on the cheek that every time she did that, it was like removing an arrow out of my back, water in the desert, and so it took a moment. She unfortunately married a broken, needy person, and I had to get through all that stuff so I could trust, that I could believe, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't still be in ministry. I wouldn't still be a leader to leaders today. I would have been all broken somewhere, feeling sorry for myself. But a wonderful wife, and so I'm thankful that she had the patience, the capacity to love me the way I needed to be loved in those days. So, but also, I believe that each person coming into marriage should be fully individual. As opposed to two halves. So I had a fully individual here, and she had a half. That healing had to come back so I could stand up again. I hate divorce, and I preached that I hated it, and then it happened. What a knife in the heart. But she brought me to wholeness. But also, I had to bring her to wholeness. When I say wholeness, she was healthy, but she wasn't fully matured in her gifting. So I had to make sure I gave her space to develop. So I had a moment where she looked after me, and then I had to step back and say, it's your turn, you flourish. And then we can come together as two wholes. And that's where we are today.
What a cool illustration. I mean, I think when we look at God, he says, I'm willing to love you. I mean, I've got everything you need. I'm here. I'm willing. I love you. Even if you don't love me, even if you don't return it, I love you. And it still takes us to say, okay.
Right.
And so that was like she was willing, she was ready, she was able, but you still have to be willing. And that willingness, I think, that surrender, if you want to call it, or that willingness. So, in your ministries now and what you guys are doing, Israel, when I heard you speak, well, first I love the name Israel, then you speak and you have that accent. And I'm like, okay, hands down, that's what I want. That name, that accent, that's great. I love that. But when I heard you speak, I was like, this is a guy who is speaking with authority, but authority that's been granted, not authority that he's taking, that is taken. Rebecca, what do you know what I'm saying there, right? When I'm saying that?
Oh, yes.
What do you think it is about him that allows him to be that person?
There's a lot of great people in the earth, great leaders, great people who've accomplished something, great business people. But to me, the marking of a great man is someone who carries the heart of a father. I'm not saying somebody who's had children, like hear what I'm saying. Yeah. He lives for more than himself. He is not concerned about how his name is in the earth or how well he's received or, one of the things that he talks about often is manhood and womanhood. So not unrelated to gender, but just the coming of age of a person is when we have, what's the word with the fear of man? When
you no longer fear man.
You no longer fear man. That you've reached this point in your manhood or womanhood where your identity, your confirmation, the validation of who you are as a person doesn't come from others. It comes from the Father. And when I look at his life and look at why he's so great as a leader, there's several things. But number one, it's just, there's no fear of man. He's not doing it for the approval of man. He's not doing it for the praise of man. We always want to see good results in people's lives, but we also know that's up to them, right? And so we can have the greatest courses and the greatest, masterminds and the greatest everything. But if people don't take it and work with it, it only works as long as they work, right? And so he's not looking for that. He is fully fledged in his identity and confidence. There's a lot of great people out there who are great at what they do, but they're not confident. They're not confident in their being. They're confident in their doing, very confident, but not in their being. And so in his leadership, number one, it's just removing that fear of man. And it creates this amazing leader who is there as a father. His greatest heart beat right now is to see others succeed. He's happy. Like he's got his motorcycle, he's got his wife, he's got his kids, his grandkids, life is good. Minus lockdowns and all that, interesting stuff. But life is good. It's rich, it's whole, but now I want to see you succeed. How can I pour into you? And that's the second thing that I believe really sets a great leader apart is giving others an opportunity. When he meets people, he sees in them oftentimes what they don't even see in themselves. And he treats them according to who they were created to be, not according to who they are. I know that because that's what he does for me. We live together, right? Like he sees me in the morning and I don't look like this, right? But he sees that, but he sees me according to who I was created to be and treats me. He doesn't treat me like the person who wakes up and, all this, and I don't know about y'all, but ain't nobody in this house wake up with great breath and hair's done and makeup's on. And, like we wake up as we are, but he looks at me and sometimes it's frustrating that he treats me according to who I was created to be. I'm like, let me alone. Let me just settle. I want to be average. And he's like, no. And so to me, that's the mark of a great leader, is someone who sees people according to their potential and their purpose and treats them according to that purpose, not according to where they are. And you would be amazed at the greatness that it pulls out of people, because there is something in us. I believe it's not something outside of us. It's something in us already put there by God. And all he's doing is just coming into agreement with that, saying, I see you. I see you. I see that purpose in you. And I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to pull it.
Love that. What do you think?
I just think it's because I know my humanity. I know my mess.
Yeah.
I can maybe pretend to everybody else, but I can't pretend to myself. I know who I is, good, bad, and ugly. Yeah. And I love Psalm 51, where David cries out, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit in me. For me, it's all about surrender and repentance. Because I tell you what, I know I'm not qualified.
Amen.
I know it's just because of his grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that keeps me very humble in that sense, you know, where I just know my self-awareness, you know, I know we need to be confident and we need to believe in ourselves and all the good things, but my self-awareness, you know, I realize that I absolutely need God in everything I do, whether it's coaching and business, entrepreneurship, or whether it's ministry. I need God.
Yeah.
And because there's times, you know, going through my tsunami, and I'd be a guest of a prime minister of a country. And I was in this prestigious hotel and I was going to go address the nation, but I knew my life was collapsing, you know, but yet I had to go out there and stand strong for the nation, or whatever it was. And I needed God.
Yeah.
And so, you know, something about the reality of your walk, where you can just be honest to yourself. Yeah. And in that, that's why I'm confident. You know, Hebrews 10:35, do not cast away your confidence, for therein is your great reward. So I always put in your 10:35 jacket. You know, go get that 10:35 out, put it on, because your reward comes from that. And my confidence is not in me. My confidence is in him. Yeah. And he's just proved that so many times. And I've messed up just so many times. so I know his grace. I love his grace.
Yeah. You know, I love the fact that you're bringing that up. You know, in today's world, we've got so many things going on, you know, from COVID to everything else in between, right? What are you finding is the best remedy? I mean, you know, we know that it's a relationship with God, with Jesus Christ. But what are you telling people right now that are struggling with that? You know, you're talking about something that some people would call the imposter syndrome, right? The imposter syndrome, you feel unworthy, but blah, blah, blah. No, you're standing before a nation, or you're standing before a congregation, you're standing before people going, look, I know my life is falling apart, and yet I've got to portray that I'm not. How do I do that? It's a complete different imposter syndrome. How do you, there's people that are doing that right now in their life, and maybe not to that scale, but they're doing it even at a deeper scale because it's with themselves. What do you say to them on how to recover from that?
Wow, that's a very good question, because it's such a threat to purpose. This whole imposter syndrome feeling where you never trust yourself. You know, you don't even believe in yourself. And I think we work in our coaching company with something we call the results triangle, where at the top of the triangle, you have belief. The right bottom corner, you have action. And the third corner, you have results. You know, little belief, little action, little results. Big belief, you know. But every time you have a result that's positive, it builds that belief system. So people who suffer with the imposter syndrome, or you know, just don't have the courage to go forward in these days, you know, they've got no idea, they're in the fog. And they're not seeing clearly. I always encourage little victories. Do something to give yourself a victory. So in other words, a New Year's resolution for myself would be to, by the end of January, lose 5 pounds. And this is a real story. I could have said, let's lose 20 pounds. And I would have failed. Well, if I put that in the results triangle, my belief system would have gone down. And that's a belief system in myself.
Sure.
And so I would see myself as a liar, as an imposter, because I said I would, and I didn't. So let me take a little step in that results triangle and say 5 pounds. And now that I'm 2 weeks away, or 3 weeks, a week away from the end of the year, end of the month, I've only got 1 pound left to go. And somebody else say, oh, you only lost 5 pounds, loser. But for me, I'm a winner.
That's right.
Oh, I told Rebecca, I lost another pound. She's so sweet. That's wonderful. But I still look like I do. I'm still overweight. But in my heart, my belief system just popped up another level.
Yes.
And so set realistic, very, very, very realistic goals that you can promise yourself, have the victory.
Yeah.
Increase your belief. And I think, going forward, we don't know the answers for everything going forward. We never will. But we have to know who we are today.
Yeah.
And build upon that foundation of who he is.
Yeah.
I know it's bad English, but.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think, you're looking at 13 years now that you've had to grow together and that you've had this development. If you could go back and talk to that person 13 years ago, that person that you were, what would you say to that person about where you're going to be?
Trust sooner. Don't hold back. It's okay. You don't need to carry burdens that aren't yours to carry. You're gonna make it.
Sing that quickly. You're gonna make it.
You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it after all. How do I know? Whoa, he told me so.
Love that.
You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it after all. How do I know? Whoa, he told me so. The Lord gave me that song probably in the first year of our marriage, because I remember where we wrote it, and we had that house for the first 9 months we were married. And I was sitting at the piano. The kids were over for a weekend, the 3 youngest kids. He had 5 born children. The 2 oldest were with him after the divorce, and 3 youngest were with his ex-wife. And when we got married, they would come every other weekend. And I remember sitting there at the piano because we didn't have enough seats for everybody. And the littlest one, she was 6 at the time, 6 or 7. And I remember her just looking up at me. The piano wasn't on. I was sitting because we needed a seat. And she looked up at me with these eyes that were just, it broke my heart, saying, I love you. I want to love you, but I'm not supposed to love you. I want everything to be okay, but everything's not okay. I want to feel safe and secure, but I don't know that I can feel safe. I don't know what she was actually thinking. That's what I saw.
Yeah.
And immediately in my spirit, in my head, I literally heard this tune, and I just turned the piano on and I sang this over her. You're gonna make it. You're gonna make it after all. How do I know? He told me so. Did I know that at that moment? Kind of, yeah, kind of no. Right. And I feel like when you're dealing with something like the imposter syndrome, or finding yourself in a place maybe you didn't expect to be there, maybe you didn't anticipate it. We all have plans, right? We have an idea of where we want to be in life, who we want to be with in life, what we want to be in life. But when you find yourself in a place you didn't plan, that you didn't, maybe it's because of someone else's choice, or maybe it's because of a natural disaster or a natural thing like COVID-19, or someone else's decision. Maybe somebody did you wrong. It's hard to walk forward with confidence, especially when something in you is saying, yeah, you won't ever be enough. Yeah, you're ultimately going to fail. Yeah, you can pretend you'll have some success, but ultimately you're going to lose it. You're not going to, it's not sustainable. That imposter syndrome, it lies to you, it steals from you, and it can destroy you.
Amen.
And you need that voice of someone in your life. The Father's willing to be that someone, but people, tangible people who are the voice of the Father to you, reminding you, you are going to make it. You were born for more than what you're living right now. I remember being confronted in my life with the imposter syndrome in business, specifically. In ministry, I was confident. I was good. Leading praise and worship, I'm good. Singing over people, I'm good. But in business, I was sitting at my desk, and it was like the Father just spoke to me in that moment. And by spoke, I didn't hear an audible voice. It was just like this presence, this knowing in myself, this quiet voice saying, "Why do you believe you're ultimately going to fail?" And I was like, "What? I don't think that. I mean, I'm a confident person, you know." And I realized that in business, it was like I was self-sabotaging every time I hit this marker financially, or, you know, in reputation or networking or whatever it was. I would self-sabotage. I would not do something that I knew would bring me success. I would not do it on purpose,
Right.
because ultimately I believed somewhere in the back of my brain that ultimately I was going to fail in business, because I felt like an imposter in my own life. In my own life. And I needed to face that fear in its ugly eyeballs and call him out of the shadows and say, "Listen, you don't get to dictate to me my terms. You don't get to dictate to me my identity. I may not believe fully in who I'm created to be, but doggone it, it's better than who you're saying I am." And so if I've got a choice between the Father and my husband, who agrees with the Father and is saying this is who I am, and you, fear and your ugly face, bring it.
Yeah. Amen.
Not an easy place, but it was a pivotal moment.
Yeah. And I think if you're going to make it, what I would have told myself earlier is that, come on, man, elevate your emotions. Because I stayed in the self-pity mode too long.
But wait, as a man, that almost is contrary, right? Because we're supposed to suppress our emotions. We're supposed to, you know, keep everything calm, cool, and collected. Right. And you're saying elevate your emotions. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right. And I think, you know, we've got to firstly accept that we are emotional people. We were created with spirit, soul, emotion, will, intellect. And so when I coach, I start coaching to the emotion. I'm not coaching to the performance, because I know the performance is dictated to by that emotion.
That's right.
And if we don't acknowledge the emotion and we don't allow ourselves to elevate it. So firstly, elevating it is letting it come out. So those days when I was going through my stuff, I had a jet ski and lived in Cape Town on the ocean. And I'd take my jet ski onto the ocean and ride those waves, shut my eyes and scream. Nobody else could hear me. But I was elevating my emotion. I was letting it come out as opposed to suppressing. But I would have done that earlier if I'd moved away from my self-pity. So there's a time to mourn. There's a time to be remorseful. There's a time to deal with those things. So that's part of the elevating of the emotion. And I would say that would be phase one of your elevating of your emotion. Deal with the emotion. Bring it up to the surface. Deal with it. And the number two, once you're dealing with it, now take it to another level where you're elevating it to a higher place. So just me sitting in this posture, trying to be in the camera, you know, and have Rebecca in the camera, you know, I'm sitting a little bit hunched over so I can be in the camera. Well, that's going to make me feel just chemically, you know, depressed.
Right.
And I'm crouched over my desk all day working. To elevate your emotion could be as simple as just sitting up straight.
Right.
Taking bigger breaths.
Right.
Getting up, going for a walk, walking away from your situation that's haunting you. I would have done more of that if somebody could have just said, "Hey, tap, you know, you got to elevate a little bit, yeah." You know, but I was in the mess. You know, I've lost multiple millions of dollars through this whole thing, large sums of money. We went from extreme wealth to homeless. Very exciting. But this journey, I needed to elevate. And actually, one of our courses we teach, we have a life by design course, self-development, is the course I wrote to get myself out.
Yeah.
of the doing. But I took too long to do it. I should have done it earlier, but I allowed myself too much space for self-pity instead of elevating. And so my encouragement to people who are going through depression, going through challenging times, as soon as you can, begin to elevate that emotion, because your emotion will drive your action. As a man thinks in his heart, not in his head, as he thinks in his heart, so is he. So, and you have hope deferred, makes the heart sick. And then out of a sick heart, you behave. This is when you misbehave. And so we've got to go right back and elevate that emotion and get that sorted out, get that healed, talk to somebody, call Bob up and talk to him, right? and let him elevate you a little bit, or help you rather elevate your own emotion. And that'll cause your thinking to change, your behavior to change, and the process of healing will be a little quicker. Now, I'm not saying do not go through remorse. I'm not saying that. You need the time to grieve. We know all those things. Give it that allocated time. And Rebecca and I have a little rule in the house to be mad. Because that happens, once every 3 years.
Not always with each other, but just period, just like getting mad.
Trying to have a conversation with an emotionally mad or frustrated person is not going to work.
No. And he's 50% Irish, right? So it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Shouting at your child when they're emotional and trying to correct them, they're not hearing you. You're provoking them. So you're provoking that emotion. So when I say elevate, I'm not talking about provoking. So I'd rather talk later. So we have a rule of how many minutes can we feel sorry for ourselves?
10 minutes. You got 10 minutes to wallow, right? To sit there. And we're talking about superficial things, not like really heavy things that take more time. Just that irritation or that I need to vent. You got 10 minutes to feel sorry for yourself. And then you get up and you dust off, wash your face, elevating your emotion. We're not saying magnify the emotion. We're not saying, lift it higher as in give it a higher place. We're saying elevate it, take that emotion you're feeling and use it for the good, right? We talk about in our coaching, we talk about the launch pad. Your emotions can be a launch pad. You're the rocket ship, right? Those emotions are the fuel in that rocket. So maybe you've got anger, right? Let that anger fuel you from where you are on that launch pad. Maybe that anger is what motivates you to get off that launch pad from where you are and take you to where you want to be. But here's the cool thing about using it as fuel. By the time you get to where you want to be, if you've elevated that emotion, if you've let that anger just do what it's doing, but use it for your good, by the time you get to where you are, you've burned up that fuel. You left with anger, but that anger simply propelled you. And now you're here, but that anger ain't here anymore. Let that anger be used as a passion. Let it be used as a force to drive you forward, but don't take it with you. Elevate it, right? Your anger can be used against you, or you can turn it around, flip the script and use it for you.
Love it.
Use it for you.
So as we're going to wrap this up, but I want to make sure that people, if you guys are on Facebook Live or on here and you want to ask a question, go ahead and raise your hand, ask a question. We'll bring you on camera, or you can bring yourself on camera at that point. But while you guys are doing that, Rebecca and Israel, how do people get in touch with you? What's a beginning thing that you would like them to do, a call to action for them?
Well, for me, I'll answer for me, because we do some things together, but we do a lot. We've got our own flows. And so for me, I have one of the free resources that I have available because I believe in giving what you have. And we charge for a lot of things, but one of the things I do for free is every Monday at 3:00 Pacific time in California, I go live on Zoom, and it's called The Dwellers Daily. And it's really just it's like a coaching call, but it's and it's not just for believers, but I very openly talk about God and his role in my life and our relationship. And Every week is a different question. I started this back in March when the lockdown hit for the first time here in California, and we had a stay-at-home order, and our whole world shifted. We travel a lot, and we speak and coach, and I sing and lead worship. We do conferences, and all of that stopped, ended. And I was like, Lord, what do we do? And he said, be a leader. And I'm like, well, I am a leader. What be a leader? And he's like, what do you have in your hands? And I'm like, time. Time. And so I started this, and we're on episode 66 this week, I believe. And we're meeting once a week. And it's just a place for people to connect, have community, share. Every week has a topic, a subject that I kind of talk about and coach on, ask questions, and just is there to really help encourage you, grow you, and a place where we can just dwell together in the presence of God. Every now and then the episode is just worship, just where we just sit together and just spend time just being in his presence, receiving from him, hearing from him. But it's been an amazing community for me as well, just to grow in and just to give. And so that's free. It's for an hour every Monday from 3 to 4. I like to talk. Sometimes it goes till 4:30, but we just have a great time. And so it's open for everybody. You can find it on Facebook. And then there's lots of other opportunities.
Well, I do something called COBE, the COBE Initiative.
Yes.
This is COBE stands for Kingdom Officers, Businessmen, and Entrepreneurs. Kingdom Officers, talking about ministers within the church, businessmen and their businesses, and entrepreneurs. And it's to get a global impact. Now we charge 27. What do we charge? No, 47.
No, it's 47 a month.
47 a month.
We had a special, but it's gone.
Yeah,
Sorry.
which is really cheap.
Yeah, that's really cheap. Yeah,
that's really cheap. I do. You know, if I'm visiting a president, he's going to pay me $35,000 for the day. So,
right.
The COBE Initiative is more about synergizing with like-minded men and women who understand the kingdom of God, but also understand business, entrepreneurship, leadership, and how we can synergize together and create a global impact by encouraging each other. And that's why it's cheap, because we're not trying to, it's not our business. If you want to do my business course, you're going to pay $10,000. But if this COBE Initiative, it's just a great way to connect.
Yeah.
So how do people get involved in that?
All right.
What's a link?
Tell them, baby.
COBEinitiative.com. You can go on there, KOBE initiative.com, and you can read more about it. You can also sign up and join us. And what we do right now is we have 2 live Zoom calls every month. One of them is a training session from Dr. Israel, and he just shares from, last week, 2 weeks ago, when he trained, it was on your I am, on how to be. Like, who are you? Aside from your performance, aside from all that you do in life, who are you? And so just starting with a lot of foundational things in this new year. This Wednesday, we're meeting again, but at this time it's for a hot seat, where we're going to pull some people on and say, all right, what are some of your, what are you struggling with right now? Is it with you? Is it with your business? Are you a minister? Is it with your church? What is it? And how can we help coach you through this and just really solve some problems, and doing it in front of others so we can all learn, so we can all grow. And so we do that every month, a training call and a hot seat. And then lots of other little things that we throw in. We're creating products based around the needs of the group. What are you needing? What are you looking for? Great. Let's create something to help you, tools to advance you as a minister, as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. And it's just a really great group of people. We love
guest
it.
speakers like Bob.
And guest speakers. He's on our list. He doesn't know it yet, but we're gonna sneak that in here. And just bringing other great men and women on to just give, and see people become the person they were created to be.
Powerful. I'm excited about that. Thank you guys for sharing that, and I hope that people can take advantage of that. I'm excited about that.
Thank you.
Flo, go ahead and bring yourself on. I know you have a question, or maybe it was a comment. I'm not sure.
Hi there. I think I was writing things down and you guys kept answering it, but I'll just kind of go with the beginning of Gosh, I love you guys. Love your energy and how you
Thank you.
Are just inspired. And Rebecca, I think you were on the congregation. Were you at the congregation? Yes, that's where I remember. Now it finally clicked when you started singing. I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen her before. But anyway, my question is, I know, Rebecca, you kind of touched on it a little bit about being in your higher self, but sometimes you just want to be normal. I know it's exhausting at times. And how do you deal with that exhausting of always trying to be at a higher level?
Well, I think number one, realizing that you're not trying to be something you're not. If I tried to be average, it would be more exhausting for me and more unfulfilling than it's not about a ranking system. I'm not trying to achieve something or attain something I'm not. I'm looking at who I was created to be, and it's just not normal. It's just not. As in the normal way of our education, or for me specifically, how I was raised in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, in this Amish Mennonite subculture where you're raised and you marry young and you marry someone who could be a distant relative, but is, whose family knows each other, and you basically were raised together and you just have lots of babies as a woman and you're a good housewife and your garden is neat and clean and your house is neat and clean. It's not me, it's just, I knew there was more. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to marry someone international just because I wanted something different. I was just desperate. I was like, this isn't me. And so I think that if you're trying to grow, if you're trying to be different because you just want to be different, it's probably going to be a constant struggle. But if you are wanting more because it's really who you are, then there's going to always be struggle in life. Like there's always going to be some element of being uncomfortable, especially if you're growing. But for me, it has to link with who you are. Don't try to be something more because you think it's better or more noble. Try to be something more because it's who you really are. I remember after I moved to South Africa, I signed up to be basically a missionary, for a year, give my life for 1 year, raise my own support, go on the mission field, work in shelters for homeless and abused women, pioneer some churches, lead worship, work with the kids, work with the daycare we started there. I was excited, and everybody will applaud you for that, right? It just sounds good. It just does. And so I was like, woo, and I moved to South Africa. I'm 21 years old, fresh off, Bible college. I'm going to give my life to God. And I remember coming home after 14 months for the first time. And I was exhausted. And I remember saying to my mom, I'm just done. Like, I just want to be normal. Like, I want to move back home. Give me the white picket fence. I'll marry somebody local, and I was having a moment. That 10 minutes, I was having a moment. And my mom just looks at me and she says, no, you don't. And I'm like, no, Mom, you're not listening to me. I just want to be normal. I'm serious. And she's like, no, you don't. And I was like, okay. And she said to me something I'll never forget. She said, Rebecca, you're a pioneer. So regardless of how much you pave a road, the road in front of you is always going to be brush. You're always going to be clearing away. You're always going to be, taking these wild woods and forging a path. It's never going to be made for you, like for the rest of your life. So if you're tired, rest, but don't settle.
Awesome.
See,
You
need people in your life, my husband, for me, my parents, friends, who see in you the truth, not the reality, the truth. And they pull you to that place, not to try and make you something you're not, but to bring out what's actually there. And so I think for yourself, Flo, if that's something maybe you're asking for somebody else, or maybe you're asking for yourself, number one, work with what's truly there. Maybe it's not developed, maybe it's underdeveloped, maybe it's hidden underneath a bunch of garbage, but trust me, there's something there and it's calling you. Your future is pulling you. too many people are pushed from their past and not pulled from their future. So let your future pull you. And number two, surround yourself with people who see in you what sometimes you don't even see in yourself. Because when you're down, if I had been surrounded by friends who didn't see that in me, when I said I just want to be normal, they would have been like, you know, Rebecca, I'm so glad you gave that year, but you know what? I agree. Like, this is, you don't need to push yourself. Just, you know, find a guy. Hey, I saw, you know, somebody is in town, you know, and they would have pushed me in a whole different direction. But because I was in the presence of someone who saw in me and they identified, hey, you may be feeling this right now, so rest. No crime in that. But don't settle. Don't settle.
Yeah. And Flo, just to add there, you know, Rebecca's talking about don't do something you're not. Maximize your authentic self.
Yes.
But never try and fit a mold that somebody else has done, because that'll be exhausting.
Yes.
So I spoke public speaking 40 times a month for 8 years without a vacation. But I never needed a vacation because it was the happiest and the healthiest years of my life. I was never tired. And I would sleep 3-4 hours a night because I had to travel, all this type of stuff. But I would take a moment where I would say, right, the next 5 hours, you know, I'm chilling, and I would do something for me. You know, I always did extreme sports. So when I traveled around the world, I'd parasail in Aruba, or you know, jet ski in Indonesia, or I would do something for myself, because that way you can switch your mind off of putting a demand on yourself to develop and to grow and to be and perform. Now you can't rest from discipline, but you can rest from demand. The demand you put on yourself. And so how I switched off the demand on myself was go and play, go and jet ski, or go and parasail, or go do something crazy. But because that was authentic to me, how I enjoyed. But I wouldn't have a vacation. So where some people work hard for 11 months of the year and then have 2 weeks of fun, I had fun throughout the week, throughout the year, but still knocked it out, you know, maximize where I was. And so, you know, take time for yourself in the demand, release the demand you put on yourself for a few hours. The nail, or pedicure, the massage, or whatever you ladies do, I don't know, you know, go for coffee. Rebecca every morning gets out of bed before me, which is unusual, wasn't the case early days.
True.
But she gets out of bed before me. I wait for my little one to wake up. And so when she wakes up, Daddy's there. I like to be there for her. She gets out and she has her time. Don't know what she does, but she'll spend an hour, 2 hours doing it. And I don't care. You know, whatever that is, you take your time. You know, you don't put on makeup if you don't want to. You wear those men's slippers or the, you know, I don't care. You know, you just go be you, because I need you to be fully you all the time. So if this is part of you, to go and veg for a while, or go and pray for a while, or go sit with a little fountain, a little vineyard outside the vineyard, not a really vineyard, a grapevine, a little vine. And
we're in wine country here. Yeah.
she'll sit there at you know, just do what she does. You know, and sometimes I look out the window and I see her sitting there, another smile, because she's refreshing. She's taking time for herself, and so don't rest from discipline, but rest from putting the demand.
Yes.
Love that statement. Love that.
Great. Thank you very much. Awesome.
Well, guys, as we wrap this up, how do people get in touch with you? Do you like them to get in touch with you, Facebook or an email or a phone? What do you guys like? And then give that information for them.
Yeah. For me, social media is really kind of the best way right now. The Rebecca Faith on Instagram, on Facebook. There's a professional page for Rebecca Faith, and then there's also just me as a person, Rebecca McGuckin. And so you can connect there. And then obviously through it all, we have different things but we'll always post it on social, things we're doing. If you want to join the Dwellers Daily on Mondays, we have a Facebook group, the Dwellers Daily. You can look it up and join there. It's a private group just for, trust and safety. And then, Kobe, you can connect there, kobeinitiative.com.
Okay.
You've got a website.
Yeah, but also just for myself, if you want to communicate with me, the best way is Dr. Israel Biz on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Dr. Israel Biz, Dr. Israel Biz.
B-I-Z.
B-I-Z. On Facebook. That's my Facebook page.
Okay.
That you can connect
Mm-hmm.
with. And then through Messenger and whatever, of course, that'll link you to that. So
Awesome.
that's just the best.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, I am so happy that we got to spend this time together. And I'm just grateful for your impact and your influence in the world. I know you've impacted my life, and I watch you guys online, and I know how much you're impacting the world. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for following God's leading in that, and being so faithful. That being said, guys, I'm gonna let you guys get out of here, and we're gonna go impact the world in our different ways today, right? And but I can't wait for the time when we're in the same room and we actually get to do as a friend of mine says. He goes, "Where does the air that you breathe start and the air that I breathe stop?" We're so intertwined,
That's good.
Nierka says that a lot. It's a great speech. So anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much.
You too.
And we'll enjoy some more time together. So thank you.
And let me just say, I know you're jumping off here, but well done. I heard you share at Rebecca Summit. You were the best that day. You knocked it out the park.
We're biased.
No, I'll tell you why, because you really had keys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You didn't just have a noise, you had keys. So thank you, Bob, for what you're doing in there.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
We do. We really appreciate you.
Love you guys. Get out there, have a great week, and we'll get together. We'll get together soon.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Bless you guys.